Okay, okay, well, I came on to say that I got a little more done as far as these shepherds go, and I decided of one thing I would do was to kind of give the little shepherd a beard like one of my uncles has. You can kind of see where I've drawn in these little lines on here to kind of make it so it has a beard that kind of hangs two ways. I'll tell you all the little story of how I came up with that. And there's an uncle I have, one of my father's brothers. I don't see him very often because he's always lived long distance from us. And of course, I didn't travel with my dad and brother and sister to attend my mamaw's funeral, but when I watched the video of it, I saw him in the video and saw that long beard of his for the first time. Never had seen it before, but it was kind of my little inspiration to give a little beard like that to the shepherds here. And when I was in between videos here, I kind of did a little work where I kind of drew some more lines as far as how I'm gonna want things to come out here. And so that was how we came up with this. And then it comes to the point where I think it's almost getting about time to kind of come along and try to take out the glove and take out the little thumb protector and to kind of work along to make the little beard and face carving of the shepherd. So some of what we did with Mary and Joseph and the wise men kind of gave me the experience by which I'd come up with all of this, and so I did. And then I say that, you know, everybody has their own opinions about beards like that. I mean, and I'd say of all things, it was just real good inspiration to me. So I decided I'd come up with the way to make the little shepherd just like that and kind of work my way into making all these little lines into carving him out. And so I say it just is where we kind of made the little lines for the face here and this one for the head. I think we're going to get around here to taking out these two little sides to make the little slashes that go down the sides of the mustache here and work our way along it. I'll tell y'all for another thing that my niece and her mom are here, and they're all up there with my brother, my parents. They're all up there watching some kind of video and or something or another, an episode of some show. I mean, she loves those cartoons that are on the TV. I'm basically proud of her for that. And then we come along here, make these little cuts along the sides, get it so we make the little facial come out just like this, and then kind of make the way to come down to the very ending sides of the beard and see it's just also where the mustache here is going to end, kind of making along these marks here to get into the place where the wood needs to be, kind of come along to where we take out that little line that is in the center of the mustache and make it just like this, and then see how there's all these other lines we take, kind of make it so it's gonna curl up to be a little thing that little shepherd is going to be, to where we see bright little paths covering our ways. Oh, little light, I tell y'all. come by and say this little thing. I think there's a little place here where we gotta carve out an extra line to make out the beard, and that's where we go to one little slot of it. We're going to go to the other side here as well, make it so it's going to have a little way to go about this, and see how we're going to come up with a good beard that the shepherd is going to have. And it could be a little funny in senses that, you know, his body is kind of short compared to his face and all, but I'd say that what you see is that it's all just coming down to where it's how far the beard and mustache go. And so put this little place intact and work our way about this. I think we're going to try to make a little line over here to put in the bottom of its headdress. Kind of place that line along there. Make a little line along here as well. And put the little place where we got to go and see how it's just turning out here. I think I forgot to, well, or I see that probably got one little swallow left to take. I am kind of thirsty. Just a little something to take there. And excuse the fact that I'm crunching that ice. Sometimes it gets to be a bad habit for some of us, but we do it. I say, for the same little cut, we're going to come along the face here. And I have debated whether or not I'll even have a donkey and an ox in this, because I could make some other scraps if I wanted to use some different woods, but seeing that the only piece, that the piece I had that was a leftover scrap that I could convert into an ox was walnut, and one of the wise men is already walnut, and thought it would be a thing where if I was going to have one wood that more than one piece was made out of, would want to have another piece that have another wood that more than one piece was made out of. And so the scrap I had already picked out for the donkey but hadn't carved into yet was made out of guanacosti, so thought after all that it'd be good to make the shepherd guanacosti too if I could find the pieces, which sure enough I did. But you know, I also just kind of think in a sense that a nativity could be complete without a donkey or a cow. I've already got a camel and a lamb for it that might even be animals enough, but there was a nativity that I made out of little branches of logs last year, out of pieces of fir logs, where I only made the people characters. I made Mary and Joseph and the wise men and the shepherd and an angel. There might not be an angel with this particular nativity set, but I'd say that for the pieces I came up with to make the last one, I'd say it was probably an 8-piece set. It had baby Jesus too. I forgot to mention that it had baby Jesus in it, but of course he was in it, and so he was just kind of regular old little piece of log that I had, but he was in it. I'd say that this is just one of those things where, you know, and we think sometimes that guanacosti and walnut might look so much alike, but when you look closely to them, you can see they are relatively different. Think I might even, before I do the mustache, do these lines of the beard here, where we come along and make it so that these little slashes and cuts are going to make the right place for this, and so it was just how this works along. Oh, and just making a little work be itself, and see how we kind of show what we're doing. Oh, like I tell y'all that we kind of have a little place to make a little cut at the top of the mustache for this little Santa character, and get it to where it's going to be just the right way for it to look when it comes down to being what it's going to be. I say this is just what it comes down to us seeing in the end, what we come down to knowing about our wood carving work, and not even so sure whether or not I could put a pair of hands in this, but I came down to where I think I can kind of see a place where down below the beard we could probably have a pair of hands that kind of hang a little low, that might be going a little closer to the waist. I think I will cut out these little headdress lines here, and I say that sometimes work shall be good to us. We all come down to it in the end, and you know, this is just one of those pieces that shall ever be a treasure or a sentiment unto us. And so we kind of come down where we work our way in, and we've probably gotten enough marks made. There is a little crack in the wood, but there'd be probably a way we could putty that up if we needed to, so it's all going to be good when it comes down in the end. Oh, I say, like, oh, kind of work our way about this and put a little good news and glory into our work. I say, come one, come all. Oh, Prophet Isaiah, he said, come buy wine and milk. It's one of those things I kind of saw when I looked in one of the chapters. I think it was chapter 55 to that matter, where I saw that. And you know, the thing that we see when we look about things, we know that God is merciful and good in every way. Now, there's a point where there's a little work that has to be debated as we move along a little further. We're going to have to decide about this as we take it down to the next step sometime. But as for this guy, you'd probably say his hands could be under his beard, just to kind of be a little folded in prayer. Do think there's kind of other pieces we shall make along the way, and I say that this is just among the things where we see a little light come into us and know us. I think there's probably one of these pieces of Mary that I've lost around here somewhere, but she's going to turn up. Sometimes there's a lot of decision to make as far as what we would carve next, but do want to show you all a little thing as far as how some of these have come along. Even the other piece for a lamb we had. Well, there's the other Mary and there's the other lamb, but I'd say that there might be some things to show. I'd like to show you all how I drew in some lines to make what I was thinking was going to be the ox in the set, but I kind of think the piece of wood might have turned out a little bit too small to go that far, so it's kind of like how these were for the donkey, you know. It would kind of make it so the donkey'd be bigger than the ox. They'd be supposed to be a little closer to the same size, so wouldn't know exactly how everything would turn out, but do think I might take a moment to kind of demonstrate how I'm going to carve the other sheep. And while those other shepherd sets you've seen me make probably had 2 lambs with them, I've decided that for this one I might choose to only have 1. So I'd say this is just kind of where we're going to carve along, make these lines so they're going to be full and complete to make a little character of what we carve and how we do and all the things a little work does for us. And it's going to come down to being where we're going to see how our work shall do us, and maybe even take us a little further down the line. And oh, I say there's probably little lines I've gotten drawn in here for the ears, and probably a place or 2 where I forgot to make them, but we kind of got the place done in just where it probably, I'd say, needs to be, and put a little work there in to kind of get it where it's free to do what we all can see it doing. And oh, I say little lambs are going to be the little work that comes out of us and sees us in night and day. I say this has just been one of those pieces of work that can take a little time, take some effort, and where we kind of, you see, just carved out little legs for the lamb, kind of got to come back here and make a little spot here. It's kind of similar to how we carved them for the other lamb with the other set, except that these are going to still have the front toe in them, or even have the little front area that makes the hoof, and kind of make it where one leg is just kind of tilted back a little bit, and then come down to where we make another little line to come in and stop what we do. And oh, well, I say little chore work. This will be a little carving work for us, but I'd say it's going to make the lamb turn out just fine and good and right and all. And I say that this is just the little thing that works about us to make us all see a good light of day come into us. And when we kind of work the way we do along this lamb, it's going to come down where, as you can see, I chose the little detail knife because it's such a small little piece of work out of a little chippy piece of wood, because chestnut is what it is, and that is a chippy wood. So already told you all the story about how I came up with these, trying to carve out some original lambs to go with some of the other shepherds like I was making, but these kind of turned out in a way that that even with the saw, they did not come out in good enough shape to be lambs like that. So debated what to do with them, thought I'd make Italian sheepdogs from them, but once it came down to it, I finally decided that there was a good use for them after all, and they could become these little lambs for the set. You'll notice they have big ears like dogs to start with, but some of that ear gets chipped away when it gets closer to the end of the work. And that's kind of what I did with this first little original lamb that I had made here, and got little where it's just kind of making little things to see, making little things we do. And I tell y'all that this is just where the work is making its way along, to see how a little time can work along to make a piece so good and right. And I'd say that nothing is going to be perfect in every way ever, but we know that sometimes, the work just kind of turns out the best that you can make it. Sometimes it just kind of shows and determines what your abilities are. Everybody's abilities are not the same, but we all just have ways of showing what we are capable of doing and what we can do. And that is how just a little work like this shall come its way. We got the little places to make along the tummy here, so gonna carve away a little extra wood to make that little spot there, and kind of put it where we've kind of got a little extra work coming this way, making the lamb so it's going to be a good little character of faith and love and hope. And I say that, there were just a lot of lambs that died when they were sacrifices in the temple back in Old Testament times. And that was kind of like before the time that God sent Jesus to be the ultimate sacrifice. So that is the reason why these days we don't have to make sacrifices of rams and bulls and goats anymore, and lambs and pigeons and whatever else they did it with in those days, because Jesus was the best one of all. He came and made it all just go obsolete. It wasn't like how it was in the Old Testament when the high priest had to come in the temple and offer the sacrifice every year, because it was just kind of the way that we did about these things when we kind of worked our way about this stuff. And I say a little extra work is taking its way along, making it so we're going to work along harder. And I say maybe make it where the backside of the lamb is going to have a little more work done into it to make it safe and sound. I tell you, all the little kid is crying up there. Hopefully you can't hear it on the video. And then it comes down to where we see a little grace and light come in, and make all the work see what it's doing to us, and brighten our days and ways and everything. I say, I tell y'all that a little time shall come its way, make it so we'll see what we're doing next is kind of showing off the little hooves, the legs, the feet, and everything in between, to make it so we got a little good lamb to be with that good shepherd when we get it done. And now it's going to come time to where we're going to make the ears a little slimmer and make the work so it's going to come the rest of the way in. And I say, oh, little things in life, blessed children of hope. I say, oh, times in our lives we kind of come to know what good there is in us, and what good we have to share, and what good we have to offer. So I say it comes down to the point where we get the lamb's ears put in and make it so we see brighter days, brighter images, brighter nights and things, and see what we do, all people in glory and God and all things. It's going to be the way we're going to see when it all comes down to just a good little piece of work in the very, very end. And so we see that we're coming down to making the little lamb's ears. I'd say I've seen also, you know, how there's like that little type of plant that's called a lamb's ear, because that's what it kind of has so much resemblance to. So don't know about all this, but how it's going to work in our lives and in our very ways, we can only see what it's going to do, what it's going to be, and come down to where we're coming down and seeing like, oh, gracious little lambs just to us, and telling us we're just special souls. And I'd say lambs are just one of the things that were sacrificed on the altar in the days, and then we know that the sacrifices eventually they became obsolete. Well, I'd say we probably got the ears to these two just close enough here to make them so they match up a little more. I'd say we've kind of got places along here. I think we've taken care of all we need to, just to make sure we got the ears in the right place and where they ought to be, what ought to be, the size they need to be like, and shape and all. And so I say this is going to be the work that comes down to see us and work in us a little happy ways. I say we know that these little lambs, it's going to only be one lamb per shepherd, because there's two shepherds, one for each set, and so there will be one lamb for each set as well. I'd say we've kind of gone on here. We've been on here a while. We've talked a while. We've shared a while, and kind of got little things we must kind of put away for now. I'd say what I feel like tonight is what's going to determine whether or not another video gets recorded this evening, maybe tomorrow in the daytime if not. But the last video I uploaded, that I recorded, hasn't been uploaded as I record this one, but it will be uploaded by the time you see this one, and this one will be uploaded too by the time you see it. So that's what I wanted to say tonight. And just for the record, a little work can be a good thing when it kind of exercises your hands and gives you real skill, relaxation, and time to see what more can you illustrate of a story. There's going to be a little more to say, a little more to share as I come on the next time, but thank you all again for watching. Take care, and if you get a chance to subscribe, I'd be happy to have you do it, if it so interests you. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.